In the ever-intensifying spotlight of BTS's post-military era, a debate has emerged within both industry circles and fandoms. Is Jin, the eldest member of the group, facing unfair levels of scrutiny and pressure compared to his fellow bandmates when it comes to his solo career? The conversation gained traction after Jin's remarkable string of achievements, including his solo EPs HYBE and Echo, his sold-out HYBE and his historic ambassadorships with global brands such as Gucci and Maison Fred, were still met with constant comparisons to the activities of younger BTS members. While Jimin, Jungkook, and RM are often celebrated for their individual projects without hesitation, Jin's every move seems to be measured against the collective weight of BTS's legacy, raising concerns of double standards. Industry analysts argue that part of this imbalance comes from Jin's position as the group's eldest member. Having completed his mandatory military service earlier than the rest, Jin re-entered the spotlight in mid-2024 with enormous expectations placed upon him. His role as a trailblazer meant he was not only representing his own artistry, but also setting the tone for the group's re-emergence on the global stage. The pressure on Jin is disproportionate, noted entertainment columnist Park Hae-jin. Every step he takes is framed as a benchmark, while his peers are allowed to move more freely. Fans, too, have voiced their frustration at the narrative. Social media discussions reveal a strong sentiment that Jin's accomplishments are undervalued simply because they are constantly put into competition with those of his fellow members. Armies across platforms insist that Jin's artistry stands on its own merit, pointing to his vocal depth, songwriting skill, and his ability to captivate audiences in both intimate settings and arenas filled with thousands. This growing debate highlights the unique challenge Jin faces in balancing his identity as a soloist with his role as BTS's eldest. While his achievements are undeniable, the question remains, why is he judged through a harsher lens than others? For many, it reflects a broader issue within the industry, the tendency to measure idols not only by their own success, but by how they compare to those around them. As BTS approaches their highly anticipated full reunion in 2026, the discussion around Jin underscores the importance of fairness in recognizing individual artistry. Whether on stage or off, his impact is undeniable, and perhaps it is time for both fans and media to appreciate his journey not as a point of comparison, but as a story of resilience and excellence in its own right. The debate surrounding Jin's treatment did not remain confined to South Korea. Across the globe, armies have voiced their frustration, arguing that the constant comparisons diminish not only Jin's accomplishments, but also the sincerity of fan-driven recognition. In Japan, one of BTS's strongest international markets, fan bases organized a coordinated statement published in online communities defending Jin against what they described as systemic undervaluation. They pointed to his platinum certifications in Japan for both HYBE and Echo as proof of his individual strength, regardless of how his activities might be contrasted with those of other members. Billboard charts and Oricon rankings, they argued, already validated his success. The facts show Jin is thriving as a soloist. There is no need to compare, one fan group declared. Meanwhile, in the United States, Jin's supporters trended hashtags like #RespectJin and #JinDeservesBetter in response to recent editorials that positioned him as being overshadowed by younger members' fashion and music headlines. American fans emphasized that Jin's achievements, such as selling out arenas during his HYBE and securing luxury brand deals that boosted millions in media exposure, were groundbreaking in their own right. Why must his every move be contextualized by what others are doing? Isn't history making enough? Wrote one army in a post that drew over 80,000 likes. European armies echoed similar sentiments, with fan collectives in France and the UK releasing bilingual online campaigns highlighting Jin's impact as Gucci's global ambassador. French commentators noted the irony that while local media celebrated Jin's Paris appearance as a watershed moment for K-pop's place in European luxury fashion, international discourse quickly returned to comparing him with other BTS members' projects. This groundswell of defense has been accompanied by a deeper reflection within the fandom, a recognition that Jin's struggles symbolize a wider challenge faced by idols in an industry obsessed with competition. For many, defending Jin is not just about supporting one artist, but about challenging the notion that success must always be framed against someone else's. As ARMY's response grows louder, the narrative is shifting. What began as speculation about unfair pressure has become a global rallying cry, with fans insisting that Jin's journey deserves to be seen on its own terms. And in this moment, one thing is clear: Jin's influence is not only measured by numbers and awards, but also by the devotion of millions who refuse to let his story be diminished. Korean media outlets have begun dissecting whether the imbalance in attention between Jin and other BTS members is the result of deliberate agency strategy rather than mere coincidence. The Korea Economic Daily suggested that HYBE and Big Hit may be recalibrating exposure to prevent one member's dominance from overshadowing the group's eventual full reunion in 2026. The logic, according to analysts, is that spreading visibility across members ensures a balanced spotlight when BTS finally returns as 7. However, this analysis has sparked heated debate. Jongong Ilbo posed the question bluntly: is Jin being held back for the sake of group equilibrium? The editorial noted that while Jimin and Jungkook were promoted heavily through fashion endorsements and variety appearances, Jin's groundbreaking solo achievements, such as the RU's KJI NEPTOUR and his historic ambassadorship with Maison Fred, were often framed in comparative terms rather than celebrated in isolation. Cultural commentators pointed out that such a strategy carries significant risks. By downplaying Jin's solo impact, the agency risks alienating ARMY who feel their efforts, countless votes, streaming milestones, and financial support are being overlooked. Fans want to see fairness, explained critic Kim Young-hoon in Sports Seoul. If their dedication to Jin is not respected, the backlash could hurt the group's long-term narrative rather than protect it. Others argued that Big Hit may be underestimating Jin's unique appeal. His humility, maturity, and ability to connect with fans across age groups position him differently from the younger members who dominate youth-oriented fashion and music spaces. Analysts at Hankyoreh suggested that Jin could be a linchpin in bridging BTS's legacy with their future, appealing to audiences beyond typical K-pop demographics. Restricting him to maintain balance, the paper wrote, may actually undermine the group's overall expansion. The agency's silence has only intensified speculation. Neither HYBE nor Big Hit has issued statements addressing the narrative, leaving room for fans and critics to fill the vacuum with their own interpretations. This lack of transparency has become a recurring point of tension between fans and management, especially as BTS transitions into a post-military era with heightened global expectations. What is clear, however, is that Jin's role cannot be diminished without consequence. As the first member to complete his service, the first to achieve significant solo milestones, and the one often positioned as the emotional anchor of the group, Jin represents more than just an individual career. He represents resilience and continuity for BTS as a whole. Any perception of unfair treatment risks not only undermining Jin but destabilizing the very unity that the agency seeks to preserve. In the end, what began as whispers of unfair pressure has evolved into a defining narrative of Jin's solo journey. Far from weakening him, the constant comparisons and heightened expectations have only magnified his resilience. Every chart-topping single, every sold-out venue, every luxury campaign has become more than a career milestone. It has become proof that Jin can rise above an uneven playing field. To ARMY, Jin now embodies something larger than recognition or awards. He has become a living symbol of perseverance, representing the struggles of an artist whose worth is questioned not because of a lack of success, but precisely because his success is so overwhelming it threatens to unsettle the balance. His story resonates with millions who see in him a reflection of their own battles for fairness, for validation, and for respect in a world that often imposes impossible standards. As BTS prepares for their full reunion in 2026, the focus will inevitably shift to the group as a whole. Yet, Jin's journey in this period will not be forgotten. Instead, it will stand as a cornerstone of the band's legacy, proof that the eldest member faced extraordinary pressure, bore it with grace, and turned it into strength not only for himself, but for the entire fandom. Industry observers now warn that if HYBE and Big Hit fail to honor Jin's accomplishments adequately, they risk igniting further backlash. But at the same time, there is growing recognition that Jin's very struggle has elevated his story into something transcendent.